I skipped the family cruise, and my parents lost it over their favoritism Reddit podcasts. Familial favoritism is a complex and often painful topic that many individuals grapple with throughout their lives. Growing up, I found myself navigating the intricate web of family dynamics, where love and attention seemed to be distributed unevenly. As the middle child, I often felt overshadowed by my older siblings' achievements and my younger siblings' charm. This experience shaped my understanding of self-worth and belonging, leading to a myriad of personal struggles that I still reflect on today. The feeling of being less favored can create a deep sense of inadequacy, making it challenging to forge one's identity outside the confines of family expectations. In sharing my story, I hope to resonate with those who have faced similar challenges, fostering a sense of connection and understanding. It's crucial to recognize that favoritism can manifest in various forms, whether through overt comparisons or subtle neglect, and it can leave lasting scars on our self-esteem. Addressing these issues is not just about seeking validation. It's about reclaiming our narratives and understanding our intrinsic value. By shedding light on the impact of favoritism, we can begin to heal and cultivate healthier family relationships. This journey is not just mine. It's a shared experience that many can relate to, and it's essential to engage in these conversations to foster empathy and growth. Understanding the dynamics of favoritism can empower us to break the cycle and create a more inclusive environment within our families. As we delve deeper into this topic, I encourage you to reflect on your own experiences and consider how they have shaped your perceptions of love and acceptance. Together, we can explore the nuances of familial relationships and the importance of recognizing each individual's worth, regardless of their position within the family hierarchy. It's time to confront these issues head-on, not only for our own sake but for the sake of future generations who deserve to feel valued and loved unconditionally. By addressing favoritism, we can pave the way for healthier interactions and a more profound understanding of what it means to be a family. This conversation is vital, as it allows us to acknowledge the pain that favoritism can cause while also celebrating the unique qualities that each family member brings to the table. Let's embark on this journey together, sharing our stories and insights, and ultimately fostering a sense of belonging that transcends favoritism. It's about creating a space where everyone feels seen and appreciated, regardless of their achievements or roles within the family. As we navigate this topic, I invite you to engage with me, share your thoughts, and reflect on how favoritism has impacted your life. Together, we can build a community that values open dialogue and supports one another in overcoming the challenges that arise from these dynamics. In doing so, we not only honor our experiences but also empower ourselves and others to embrace their worth and individuality. Let's take this opportunity to learn from one another, to grow, and to foster a deeper understanding of the complexities of familial relationships. By addressing favoritism and its effects, we can cultivate a more compassionate and inclusive environment for ourselves and those we love. So, let's dive into this important conversation, exploring the intricacies of favoritism and the journey towards self-acceptance and familial harmony. Growing up in a household where my brother Adam seemed to be the golden child was a challenging experience that left a lasting impact on my emotional well-being. From an early age, it was evident that Adam received preferential treatment from our parents, which created a palpable sense of disparity in our family dynamics. While I often felt overlooked, Adam basked in the warmth of praise and attention, making it difficult for me to understand my place within the family. This contrasting treatment was not just a matter of perception. It was evident in the way our parents celebrated his achievements while my own accomplishments were often met with indifference. For instance, when Adam scored well on a test, our parents would throw a small celebration, complete with his favorite cake and a heartfelt congratulatory speech. In contrast, when I achieved a similar feat, the acknowledgement was minimal, often reduced to a quick, "good job," before they moved on to discuss Adam's latest triumphs. These moments were not isolated incidents. They were part of a pattern that left me feeling invisible. I remember one particular summer when our family went on vacation. Adam was allowed to choose the activities, and naturally, he picked the ones he enjoyed most, like visiting amusement parks and going on thrilling adventures. When I suggested a quieter day at the beach, my parents dismissed my idea, insisting that we should stick to Adam's plans. This not only reinforced the idea that my preferences were secondary but also made me feel as though my voice didn't matter. The emotional toll of this favoritism was profound. I often found myself grappling with feelings of inadequacy and resentment, questioning why I wasn't deserving of the same love and attention that Adam received so effortlessly. It was as if I was constantly competing for a limited supply of affection, and no matter how hard I tried, I always seemed to fall short. The disparity in treatment extended beyond celebrations and vacations. It seeped into our everyday lives. For example, when it came to chores or responsibilities, Adam was often given the easier tasks while I was left with the more demanding ones. I vividly recall a weekend when our parents assigned us both to clean the garage. Adam was given the task of organizing the tools, while I was left to scrub the floors and dispose of old items. As I worked tirelessly, I couldn't help but feel a sense of injustice. It was moments like these that fueled my feelings of resentment and frustration, making me question my worth within the family. The emotional impact of this favoritism was not just about feeling less favored. It manifested in deeper insecurities. I began to internalize the belief that I was somehow less valuable than Adam, leading to a constant struggle with self-esteem. I often found myself seeking validation from friends and teachers, desperately trying to fill the void left by my family's lack of acknowledgement. This need for external approval became a coping mechanism, but it also highlighted the emotional scars that favoritism had inflicted on me. As I navigated through these feelings, I realized that the disparity in treatment was not just about sibling rivalry. It was about the profound effects of favoritism on my sense of self. The emotional weight of being treated poorly compared to Adam was a burden I carried for years, shaping my relationships and my understanding of love and acceptance. It's essential to recognize that favoritism can have lasting consequences, impacting not only the favored child, but also the one who feels overlooked. In sharing my experiences, I hope to shed light on the emotional struggles that arise from such dynamics, encouraging others to reflect on their own family relationships and the importance of equitable love and support. During high school, the realization of my family's favoritism became painfully clear, marking a turning point in my understanding of my place within our family. It was during a particularly challenging semester that I first recognized the unfair treatment I had been enduring for years. I had been working tirelessly to maintain my grades, juggling extracurricular activities and part-time work, all while trying to carve out my own identity. One day, I received an award for academic excellence, a moment I had anticipated with excitement. However, when I brought the news home, I was met with a lukewarm response. My parents congratulated me, but their enthusiasm quickly shifted to discussing Adam's recent achievements in sports, overshadowing my moment of pride. It was in that moment that the realization hit me like a ton of bricks. I had always known, on some level, that Adam was the favored child, but witnessing my hard work being dismissed in favor of his accomplishments was a stark awakening. I felt a wave of emotions wash over me: anger, sadness, and a profound sense of betrayal. It was as if my efforts were rendered meaningless in the eyes of my family, and I began to question whether I would ever be able to earn their genuine pride and affection. The implications of Adam's actions were equally troubling. He seemed to thrive in the spotlight, often flaunting his achievements without a second thought for how they affected me. I remember a particular incident during a school assembly where Adam was recognized for his athletic prowess. As he stood on stage, basking in the applause, I felt a knot tighten in my stomach. My parents were beaming with pride, their eyes shining with admiration as they cheered him on. In that moment, I felt invisible, as if I were merely a shadow in the background of his success. What stung even more was my parents' reaction to my feelings. When I tried to express my hurt, they brushed it off, insisting that I was being overly sensitive. They would often say things like, "You're just as talented, but Adam needs this right now," or "You'll have your time to shine." Their dismissive responses only deepened my sense of isolation and reinforced the belief that my feelings were not valid. I began to internalize the idea that I was somehow unworthy of their attention and that my accomplishments would never measure up to Adam's. This realization had a profound impact on my self-esteem. I started to view myself through a lens of inadequacy, constantly comparing my achievements to Adam's and feeling like I was falling short. The more I tried to excel, the more I felt like I was chasing an elusive approval that would never come. I found myself withdrawing from activities I once enjoyed, fearing that my efforts would go unnoticed or, worse, be overshadowed by my brother's successes. As the months went by, this realization began to manifest in other areas of my life. I became increasingly anxious about my performance in school and social situations, worried that I would never be able to live up to the expectations set by my family. I started to seek validation from friends and teachers, desperately trying to fill the void left by my family's favoritism. However, no amount of external praise could replace the deep-seated need for acknowledgement from my parents. Ultimately, this awakening forced me to confront the painful reality of my family dynamics. I realized that favoritism was not just a fleeting issue. It was a pattern that had shaped my self-worth and identity for far too long. Understanding this dynamic was both liberating and heartbreaking, as it allowed me to recognize the emotional scars I had been carrying. It became clear that I needed to advocate for myself and seek out relationships that valued me for who I was, rather than who I was compared to Adam. This journey of self-discovery was just beginning, but it marked a crucial step toward reclaiming my sense of self and worth. As I ventured into adulthood, my journey toward independence was marked by a series of achievements and challenges that tested my resilience and determination. After graduating high school, I was eager to carve out my own path, fueled by a desire to prove my worth beyond the shadows of my brother Adam. I enrolled in a local university, excited to pursue a degree in a field I was passionate about. My first semester was a whirlwind of new experiences, late-night study sessions, and the thrill of newfound freedom. I excelled academically, earning scholarships that recognized my hard work and dedication. For the first time, I felt a sense of pride in my accomplishments, believing that I was finally stepping into my own light. However, the road to independence was not without its challenges. As I navigated the demands of college life, I quickly realized that financial support from my parents was not as forthcoming as I had hoped. While Adam had received generous backing for his college expenses, including a new car and a monthly allowance, my financial situation was starkly different. My parents had made it clear that they expected me to manage on my own, citing my scholarships as sufficient support. This disparity in financial assistance was not just a logistical issue. It was a painful reminder of the favoritism that had permeated our family dynamics for years. I felt the weight of their expectations pressing down on me, as if my achievements were somehow less worthy of celebration than Adam's. As the semesters progressed, the financial strain became increasingly burdensome. I juggled part-time jobs, often working late into the night to cover my tuition and living expenses. While I was proud of my ability to support myself, the exhaustion took a toll on my academic performance and mental health. I often found myself questioning whether I was truly capable of succeeding in my chosen field or if I was simply destined to struggle. The emotional toll of being cut off from parental support was profound. I longed for the encouragement and validation that I had seen Adam receive, but instead, I felt isolated in my efforts. My parents' lack of involvement in my journey left me feeling abandoned, as if my achievements were not worthy of their investment or interest. The disparity in support became even more apparent during pivotal moments in my college career. When I faced setbacks, such as a challenging course or a difficult internship application, I yearned for the kind of guidance and reassurance that Adam seemed to receive effortlessly. I watched as my parents celebrated his successes, attending his games and showering him with praise, while I struggled to find my footing. The emotional impact of this favoritism was compounded by the financial challenges I faced, creating a sense of inadequacy that was hard to shake. I often felt like I was fighting an uphill battle, striving for independence while grappling with the lingering effects of my family's dynamics. Despite these challenges, I remained determined to forge my own path. I sought out mentors and built a network of supportive friends who understood my struggles. I learned to advocate for myself, applying for grants and scholarships that would help alleviate some of the financial burden. Each small victory, whether it was landing an internship or receiving recognition for my work, became a testament to my resilience and determination. I began to redefine my sense of self-worth, recognizing that my value was not contingent upon my parents' approval or financial support. As I continued on my journey, I realized that independence was not just about financial stability. It was about reclaiming my narrative and embracing my individuality. I learned to celebrate my achievements, no matter how small, and to acknowledge the strength it took to overcome the challenges I faced. While the emotional toll of being cut off from parental support was significant, it ultimately fueled my desire to succeed on my own terms. I began to understand that my journey was uniquely mine, shaped by my experiences and the lessons I had learned along the way. This newfound perspective empowered me to embrace my independence and pursue my career aspirations with confidence, knowing that I was capable of achieving my goals, regardless of my family's dynamics. When my parents announced the family cruise invitation, I felt a mix of emotions swirling within me. They had planned this trip for months, excitedly discussing the destinations, activities, and the bonding time they envisioned for our family. As they shared their enthusiasm, I could see the glimmer in their eyes, particularly when they spoke about the fun they anticipated having with Adam. It was clear that they expected this cruise to be a time of togetherness, a chance to create memories that would further solidify their bond with him. However, as the details unfolded, I couldn't shake the feeling of exclusion that crept into my heart. From the outset, it was evident that the cruise was framed as a celebration of Adam's recent accomplishments. My parents spoke about how proud they were of him, highlighting his achievements in sports and academics, and how this trip was a well-deserved reward for his hard work. As they planned the itinerary, I felt like an afterthought, a mere accessory to their celebration of Adam. They casually mentioned that they hoped I would join them, but the invitation felt more like an obligation than a genuine desire for my presence. I couldn't help but feel that my own achievements and struggles were being overshadowed, as if my worth was contingent upon my ability to fit into their narrative of family success. As the days passed and the cruise date approached, my feelings of exclusion intensified. I found myself grappling with a sense of unfair treatment that had become all too familiar. While Adam was showered with praise and excitement, I felt invisible, as if my contributions to the family were insignificant. I recalled countless moments throughout my life where I had been sidelined in favor of my brother, and this cruise invitation was just another reminder of that painful reality. The thought of spending a week on a cruise, surrounded by the very dynamics that had caused me so much emotional turmoil, filled me with dread. I envisioned the constant comparisons, the subtle jabs, and the feeling of inadequacy that would inevitably arise. In the midst of this emotional turmoil, I faced a pivotal decision. I realized that I had a choice. I could either prioritize my self-worth or continue to subject myself to the familial obligations that had long left me feeling unvalued. After much contemplation, I made the difficult decision to decline the invitation. It was a choice rooted in self-preservation, a declaration that I would no longer allow my sense of worth to be dictated by my family's expectations. I knew that attending the cruise would only exacerbate my feelings of exclusion and resentment, and I refused to put myself in a situation where I would feel like a second-class member of the family. When I communicated my decision to my parents, I could sense their disappointment. They expressed confusion, questioning why I wouldn't want to join them on what they deemed a special family trip. I explained my feelings, articulating how the dynamics of our family had affected me over the years. I spoke about the emotional toll of feeling overshadowed and how I needed to prioritize my own well-being. While they struggled to understand my perspective, I felt a sense of relief wash over me. It was liberating to assert my boundaries and prioritize my self-worth, even if it meant disappointing my parents. In the end, my decision to decline the cruise invitation was a significant step in my journey toward independence and self-acceptance. It marked a turning point where I began to recognize that my value was not tied to my family's approval or their perception of success. I learned that it was okay to prioritize my own needs and feelings, even if it meant stepping away from familial obligations that had long left me feeling unappreciated. This experience empowered me to embrace my individuality and seek out relationships and experiences that honored my worth, free from the shadows of favoritism and exclusion. Choosing to spend Thanksgiving with Tom's family instead of attending the cruise with my own family was a decision that marked a significant turning point in my life. The emotional liberation I felt in opting out of the cruise was profound. For years, I had been caught in a cycle of trying to earn my family's approval, often at the expense of my own happiness and self-worth. Declining the invitation to join my parents and Adam on the cruise was not just about avoiding the discomfort of familial favoritism. It was a powerful act of reclaiming my autonomy. I felt a weight lift off my shoulders as I made the decision, realizing that I no longer had to conform to the expectations that had long dictated my sense of belonging. As Thanksgiving approached, I found myself filled with anticipation for the holiday with Tom's family. From the moment I arrived at their home, I was enveloped in a warmth and acceptance that I had longed for. Tom's family welcomed me with open arms, treating me as one of their own. The atmosphere was filled with laughter, delicious aromas wafting from the kitchen, and the comforting sounds of family traditions being celebrated. I watched as they shared stories, played games, and engaged in heartfelt conversations, and I felt an overwhelming sense of belonging that had been absent in my own family gatherings. The contrast between my experiences with Tom's family and my own was striking. While my family often engaged in subtle comparisons and competitive banter, Tom's family fostered an environment of encouragement and support. They celebrated each person's unique contributions, making it clear that everyone was valued for who they were, not just for their achievements. I remember sitting around the dinner table, sharing what I was grateful for, and feeling genuinely appreciated when I spoke about my journey and aspirations. Their interest in my life felt authentic, and for the first time in a long while, I felt seen and heard. This experience reinforced the importance of setting boundaries for self-respect. By choosing to spend Thanksgiving with Tom's family, I was not only prioritizing my emotional well-being, but also affirming my right to seek out relationships that uplifted me. I realized that it was essential to surround myself with people who recognized my worth and celebrated my individuality, rather than those who perpetuated feelings of inadequacy. This newfound understanding empowered me to establish boundaries that protected my self-esteem and mental health. As the evening progressed, I found myself reflecting on the significance of my decision. I had taken a stand against the patterns of favoritism that had plagued my family dynamics for years. In choosing to embrace a different kind of family experience, I was reclaiming my narrative and redefining what family meant to me. Tom's family exemplified the kind of love and acceptance I had always yearned for, and I felt a deep sense of gratitude for their kindness. The emotional liberation I experienced during this Thanksgiving was transformative. It was a reminder that I had the power to choose my path and that I deserved to be surrounded by people who valued me for who I was, not just for my accomplishments. This realization was a crucial step in my journey toward self-acceptance and independence. I learned that it was okay to prioritize my own needs and desires, even if it meant stepping away from familial obligations that had long left me feeling unappreciated. In the end, spending Thanksgiving with Tom's family was not just a holiday choice. It was a declaration of my self-worth. It marked a shift in my perspective, allowing me to embrace the idea that I could create my own family dynamics based on love, acceptance, and mutual respect. This experience solidified my commitment to setting boundaries that honored my individuality and emotional well-being, paving the way for healthier relationships in the future. I left Tom's home that evening feeling rejuvenated, empowered, and ready to continue my journey toward a life that truly reflected my values and aspirations. After spending Thanksgiving with Tom's family, I knew that I had to confront my parents about my decision. The emotional liberation I felt during the holiday was quickly overshadowed by the anxiety of facing them. I anticipated their reactions, knowing that they would likely be disappointed and perhaps even angry. When I finally gathered the courage to sit down with them, I felt a mix of apprehension and determination. I wanted to express my feelings, but I also feared the confrontation would lead to more hurt. When I arrived at my parents' house, the atmosphere was tense. They were still recovering from the shock of my absence during the cruise, and I could sense their disappointment hanging in the air like a thick fog. My mother was the first to speak, her voice tinged with frustration. "We were really looking forward to having you with us," she said, her eyes narrowing slightly. "It was supposed to be a family trip, and you chose to spend it with Tom's family instead." My father chimed in, echoing her sentiments. emphasizing how they had planned the trip around Adam's achievements and how my absence felt like a betrayal. As they expressed their feelings, I felt a wave of guilt wash over me. I had hoped that my decision would be understood as a step toward prioritizing my own well-being, but instead, it seemed to deepen the divide between us. The emotional conflict within me was palpable. I wanted to stand firm in my choice, to explain that I needed to break free from the patterns of favoritism that had long left me feeling undervalued. Yet, as I listened to their disappointment, I couldn't help but feel a pang of longing for their validation and acceptance. "Why can't you just be happy for Adam?" my mother asked, her voice rising slightly. "He's worked so hard, and we wanted to celebrate as a family." Her words struck a nerve, and I felt the familiar sting of being compared to my brother. I took a deep breath, trying to articulate my feelings without letting my emotions overwhelm me. "I am happy for Adam," I replied, my voice steady but laced with emotion. "But I also need to feel valued for my own achievements. It's hard to celebrate when I feel like I'm always in the background." My father's expression shifted, and I could see the confusion in his eyes. "We love you, and we're proud of you," he said, but his tone lacked the conviction I desperately needed to hear. "You just need to understand that family comes first." In that moment, I felt a deep sense of frustration. Their definition of family felt conditional, based on performance and comparison rather than unconditional love and support. I struggled to find the right words to convey my feelings, grappling with the desire for their approval, while also wanting to assert my independence. The confrontation became a battleground for my emotions, a struggle between my longing for acceptance and my need to establish boundaries. I could feel the tension rising as I fought to maintain my composure. "I need to prioritize my own happiness," I finally said, my voice trembling slightly. "I can't keep sacrificing my self-worth to fit into a mold that doesn't reflect who I am." As I spoke, I could see the realization dawning on my parents' faces. They were beginning to understand that my absence from the cruise was not a rejection of family but rather a quest for self-acceptance. Yet, the emotional toll of the confrontation weighed heavily on me. I felt like I was standing at a crossroads, torn between the desire for familial connection and the need to carve out my own identity. In the end, the confrontation was a necessary step in my journey towards self-validation. While my parents struggled to fully grasp my perspective, I knew that I had taken a significant step in asserting my worth. I left the conversation feeling emotionally drained but also empowered. I had confronted the very dynamics that had caused me pain for so long, and while the path ahead remained uncertain, I felt a renewed sense of determination to seek out relationships and experiences that honored my individuality. This confrontation was not just about my absence from the cruise. It was about reclaiming my narrative and embracing the journey towards self-acceptance, regardless of my parents' reactions. After my confrontation with my parents, I found myself in a reflective state, grappling with the emotional fallout from the intense discussions about family dynamics. It was during a casual conversation with Adam that I began to unpack my feelings further. We were sitting in the living room, the atmosphere relaxed, but I could sense an underlying tension as I broached the topic of our family dynamics. I had always viewed Adam as the favored child, but I was curious to hear his perspective on the situation. As I shared my feelings about the favoritism I had experienced, Adam listened intently, nodding along. He expressed his own views, emphasizing how he felt the pressure of being the golden child. He spoke about the expectations placed on him, the constant need to excel, and how he often felt like he was living in a spotlight that left little room for error. I was surprised to hear him articulate these feelings, as I had always assumed he reveled in the attention and praise he received from our parents. However, as he continued, it became clear that he, too, felt the weight of their expectations, albeit in a different way. Yet, as the conversation progressed, I began to notice a troubling alignment between Adam's perspective and our parents' favoritism. While he acknowledged the pressure he faced, he also seemed to accept the status quo, viewing it as a natural part of our family dynamics. He spoke about how our parents' praise motivated him to achieve more, and I couldn't help but feel a pang of resentment. It was as if he had internalized their favoritism, using it as fuel for his own success, while I had been left to grapple with feelings of inadequacy and exclusion. The emotional fallout from our conversation was significant. I felt a mix of frustration and sadness as I realized that Adam's acceptance of our parents' favoritism was a reflection of his own struggles. But it also meant that he was complicit in the very dynamics that had caused me so much pain. I had hoped that he would understand my perspective and perhaps even empathize with my feelings of being overlooked. Instead, it felt as though he was reinforcing the narrative that had long left me feeling unworthy. As I processed these emotions, I began to question the nature of our relationship. I had always viewed Adam as a rival, someone who stood in the way of my own achievements and validation. But now, I saw him as a product of the same family dynamics that had shaped my own experiences. It was a sobering realization that left me feeling isolated. While I had been striving for independence and self-acceptance, Adam seemed to be navigating the same waters but choosing to swim alongside our parents rather than against them. This conversation forced me to confront the uncomfortable truth that Adam's alignment with our parents' favoritism was not just a personal issue. It was a reflection of the broader family dynamics that had shaped both of our lives. I felt a sense of betrayal, not just from my parents but also from Adam, who I had hoped would be an ally in my quest for validation. Instead, he appeared to be content with the status quo, leaving me feeling even more alone in my struggle. In the aftermath of our conversation, I found myself grappling with conflicting emotions. I wanted to support Adam and acknowledge his own challenges, but I also felt a deep sense of frustration at his inability to see the harm that favoritism had caused. It was as if we were on parallel paths, each navigating our own struggles, yet unable to connect on the shared experience of feeling undervalued in different ways. Ultimately, this conversation with Adam served as a catalyst for my own growth. It highlighted the complexities of familial relationships and the ways in which favoritism can create rifts not only between parents and children but also among siblings. I realized that my journey towards self-acceptance would require me to redefine my relationship with Adam, acknowledging both our shared experiences and our differing responses to the family dynamics that had shaped us. While the emotional fallout from our conversation was painful, it also opened the door for deeper understanding and reflection, allowing me to continue my journey toward reclaiming my sense of self-worth and independence. As I sat alone in my room, the weight of my family dynamics pressed heavily on my chest, leading me to contemplate a decision that felt both liberating and terrifying: cutting contact with my family. The emotional toll of navigating the complexities of favoritism, exclusion, and the constant struggle for validation had become increasingly unbearable. I found myself reflecting on the countless moments that had left me feeling unworthy and overlooked, and the thought of distancing myself from the very people who were supposed to love and support me was both daunting and necessary. The decision to distance myself from my family was not one I took lightly. It was a culmination of years of feeling like an outsider, of being overshadowed by Adam's achievements and my parents' unwavering focus on him. I had spent so much time trying to earn their approval, only to realize that no matter how hard I tried, I would always be seen as secondary. The emotional weight of this realization was crushing. I felt as though I was carrying a burden that was not mine to bear, and the thought of continuing to engage with my family under these circumstances felt like a recipe for further pain. In contemplating this decision, I recognized my deep desire for self-preservation and mental health. I had spent far too long sacrificing my own well-being in the pursuit of familial acceptance. The emotional scars from years of favoritism and neglect were beginning to manifest in my mental health, leading to anxiety and feelings of inadequacy that I could no longer ignore. I realized that I needed to prioritize my own needs and happiness, even if it meant stepping away from the family that had shaped my identity for so long. The idea of cutting contact was daunting, filled with uncertainty about how my family would react and what it would mean for my future. I feared the potential backlash, the hurtful words that might be exchanged, and the possibility of being labeled as the problem child. Yet, as I weighed these fears against the emotional turmoil I had been experiencing, I began to understand that prioritizing my personal well-being was essential. I had spent years trying to fit into a mold that didn't reflect who I was, and it was time to break free from that cycle. I envisioned a life where I could surround myself with people who valued me for my individuality, rather than my ability to conform to their expectations. The thought of creating a supportive network of friends and chosen family filled me with hope. I longed for relationships built on mutual respect and understanding, where I could express my feelings without fear of judgment or dismissal. This desire for a healthier environment fueled my contemplation of cutting contact with my biological family. As I continued to reflect on this decision, I realized that prioritizing my well-being was not an act of selfishness but rather an act of self-love. I had spent far too long allowing my family's dynamics to dictate my self-worth, and it was time to reclaim my narrative. I understood that stepping away from my family could provide the space I needed to heal and grow, free from the emotional burdens that had weighed me down for so long. The emotional weight of this decision was still present, but it began to feel lighter as I embraced the idea of prioritizing my mental health. I recognized that distancing myself from my family did not mean I had to erase my past or the love I once felt for them. Instead, it was about creating boundaries that honored my journey towards self-acceptance and happiness. I could still hold onto the good memories while acknowledging that the current dynamics were no longer serving me. Ultimately, the contemplation of cutting contact with my family became a pivotal moment in my journey towards self-discovery. It was a decision rooted in the understanding that I deserved to be surrounded by love and acceptance, free from the shadows of favoritism and emotional neglect. As I weighed the pros and cons, I felt a growing sense of empowerment, knowing that prioritizing my personal well-being was not only necessary, but also a vital step toward reclaiming my identity and embracing the life I truly wanted to live. As we reach the conclusion of this journey towards self-acceptance, it's essential to recap the key points we've discussed throughout this video. We began by exploring the complexities of familial favoritism, highlighting how it can shape our self-worth and emotional well-being. I shared my personal experiences of feeling overshadowed by my brother Adam, and how this dynamic led to a profound sense of inadequacy. We delved into the emotional turmoil that arose from my parents' expectations and the impact of their favoritism on my mental health. Throughout the video, we examined pivotal moments that led to my decision to prioritize my own happiness, including my choice to spend Thanksgiving with Tom's family instead of attending the cruise. This decision marked a significant turning point, allowing me to experience the warmth and acceptance that had been absent in my own family. We also discussed the emotional fallout from my confrontation with my parents, where I began to assert my feelings and recognize the importance of setting boundaries for my self-respect. As I contemplated cutting contact with my family, I realized that prioritizing my well-being was not an act of selfishness, but rather an essential step toward reclaiming my identity. This journey has taught me that self-acceptance is a process that requires courage, reflection, and the willingness to establish boundaries that honor our needs. It's about recognizing our worth and surrounding ourselves with relationships that uplift us rather than diminish us. Now, I encourage you, the viewers, to reflect on your own family dynamics. Consider how they may have shaped your self-perception and emotional health. Are there patterns of favoritism or expectations that have left you feeling undervalued? It's crucial to acknowledge these dynamics and understand that you have the power to create change in your life. Setting boundaries is not only a way to protect your mental health, but also a means of fostering healthier relationships, whether with family or friends. If you found value in this discussion and resonate with the themes of self-acceptance and boundary setting, I invite you to subscribe to this channel for more content. Your support means the world to me, and by subscribing, you'll stay updated on future videos that delve deeper into personal growth, emotional well-being, and navigating complex family dynamics. Additionally, if you enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up and share it with others who may benefit from this conversation. Together, we can create a community that fosters understanding, empathy, and support for those navigating similar challenges. Your engagement helps spread awareness about the importance of self-acceptance and the necessity of setting boundaries in our lives. Thank you for joining me on this journey. Remember, you are not alone in your struggles, and it's never too late to prioritize your well-being. Embrace your individuality, honor your feelings, and take the steps necessary to cultivate a life that reflects your true self. I look forward to continuing this conversation with you in future videos, and I hope to see you again soon.